cudgels? Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya On the 16th day of September 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the chapter 11, the Universal Form, text 52, on page 498. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sudurdarsham Idam Rupam Drishtavan Asiyan mama deva api asya rupasya nityam darshana kangshinaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, page 498. Sudurdarsham idang rupam drishtavan asiyan mama deva apyasya rupasya nityam darshana kangshinaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Sudurdarshamidam rupam drishtavan asiyan mama deva apyasya rupasya nityam darshana kangshinaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Sudurdarshamidam rupam drishtavan asiyan mama deva apyasya rupasya nityam darshana kangshinaha. Go ahead, Jay. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Sudurdarshamidam rupam drishtavan asiyan mama deva apyasya rupasya nityam darshana kangshinaha. Ladies. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Sudurdarshamidam rupam drishtavan asiyan mama deva apyasya rupasya nityam darshana kangshinaha. Anyone online? Okay.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha,
Shri Bhagavan Vacha,
Sudurdarsham idam rupam
Sudurdarshamidam rupam
drishtavan ashiyan mama
drishtavan asiyan mama
deva api asya rupasya
deva apyasya rupasya
nityam darshana kangshina.
nityam darshana kangshinaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Sudurdarsham, very difficult to see. Idam, this, rupam, form, drishtavan, asi, as you have seen, yat, which, mama, of mine, devaha, the demigods, api, also, asi, asya, this, rupasya, form, nityam, eternally, darshana kangshinaha, aspiring to see. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. And this, I think, is his four-handed form that he's showing now. Purport. In the 48th verse of this chapter, Lord Krishna concluded revealing his universal form and informed Arjuna that this form is not possible to be seen by so many pious activities, sacrifices, etc. Now here the word Sudurdarsham is used, indicating that Krishna's, it's the two-handed form, is still more confidential. One may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various activities like penances, Vedic study, and philosophical speculation. It may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti one cannot see. That has already been explained. Still, beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna with two hands is still more difficult to see, even for demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva. They desire to see him, and we have evidence in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was supposed to be in the womb, when he was known to be in the womb of his mother, actually we're just working on this chapter now, and that's supposed to be known to be. They desire to see him, and we have evidence in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was known to be in the womb of his mother, Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marvel of Krishna, and they offered nice prayers to the Lord, although he was not at that time visible to them. They waited to see him. A foolish person may deride him, thinking him an ordinary person, and may offer respect not to him, but to the impersonal something within him. But these are all nonsensical postures. Krishna in his two-armed form is actually desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiva. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:11, it is also confirmed, Avajananti ma mudha manushim tanamashritam. He is not visible to the foolish persons who deride him. Krishna's body, as confirmed by the Brahma Samhita and confirmed by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, is completely spiritual and full of bliss and eternality. His body is never like a material body. But for some who make a study of Krishna by reading the Bhagavad Gita or similar Vedic scriptures, Krishna is a problem. For one using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher. But he is an ordinary man, and even though he was so powerful, he had to accept the material body. So this is what these so-called learned philosophers say. One using material process says this. Ultimately, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. Therefore, they think that from his impersonal feature, he assumed a personal feature attached to material nature. This is a materialistic calculation of the Supreme Lord. Another calculation is speculative. Those who are in search of knowledge also speculate on Krishna and consider him to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme. Thus, some think that the universal form of Krishna, which was manifested to Arjuna, is more important than his personal form. According to them, the personal form of the Supreme is something imaginary. They believe that in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person. But the transcendental process is described in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, to hear about Krishna from authorities. That is the actual Vedic process. And those who are actually in the Vedic line hear about Krishna from authority, and by repeated hearing about him, Krishna becomes dear. As we have several times discussed, Krishna is covered by his Yoga Maya potency. He is not to be seen or revealed to anyone and everyone. Only by one to whom he reveals himself can he be seen. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. For one who is a surrendered soul, the absolute truth can actually be understood. The transcendentalists, by continuous Krishna consciousness and by devotional service to Krishna, can have his spiritual eyes opened and can see Krishna by revelation. Such a revelation is not possible even for the demigods. Therefore, it is difficult even for the demigods to understand Krishna, and the advanced demigods are always in hope of seeing Krishna in his two-handed form. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form as Shyama Sundar. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, now we're coming to the end of the chapter, and we can retrace that Arjuna asked Krishna to reveal his universal form. And in the commentary to that question and subsequent verses, Prabhupada makes it very clear that there was an underlying reason for that. Not that Arjuna was so eager to see it, but that the plan was that if someone claims to be an incarnation of Krishna, then one should be sober enough to ask him or demand that he or she reveal the universal form, their universal form. And if they can't, then they should be rejected. So that's the underlying reason. And Prabhupada, in several places, including this purport, he makes the point that the devotees really aren't that eager to see this universal form. Because what is the whole purpose of Bhakti Yoga? What is the goal? That's what we have to ask. And the goal is really to revive or uncover our original loving relationship with Krishna, with God. That's really the goal. And that's why even liberation is eventually seen as not so important. Lord Chaitanya wrote his Shikshastika, 8 verses of instruction. And that's Krishna himself in the form of Lord Chaitanya, instructing us in the process of bhakti through these 8 verses. And in verse number 4, he says, Nadanang, Nadanang, he's teaching us how to pray. Nadanang, Nadanang, Nasundaring Kavitang Vajagadish Kamaye. Mama Janmani Janmani Shure Bhavata Bhakta Haituki Twahi. Which means wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world, of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. So the word ahoitiki is there. Now that word keeps coming up. Hetu means a cause, and it often means a material motive. A material motive. And this is what characterizes most religions, let's face it. Why do people go to church? Well, I know my old friends who used to be Catholics before joining Hare Krishna. It's based on, from the childhood, it's like, if you don't come to church, if you don't beg for forgiveness for your sins, you'll go to hell eternally. And what's hell like? Oh, it's very hot, the torture is this. Okay, I'll pray. Oh, our Father in art in heaven, please. So it's all based on fear. It's based on fear. You don't learn anything about the all attractive form, qualities, and pastimes of God, right? Do you in Western religion? I didn't grow up as a Catholic, but I know from my old friends that no, it's certainly better than nothing. It's better than out and out atheism, but it's a very kind of rudimentary understanding of God. God as the supreme controller, and God as the supreme source of everything, and as the supreme punisher, the vengeful God. But where does the love come in? Where does that come in? Love God with all thy heart and all thy mind. Well, if you're going to love God, then you at least have to know what he looked like. What does he do? What are his qualities? Otherwise, how can you really develop real love? So anyway, the bhakti as taught by Lord Chaitanya and his followers is geared toward that reawakening of the pure love for God. And that's why this process of chanting the holy name is very esoteric. It just sounds like, like in the 70s, we had a whole period there where they were saying they were brainwashing us. And there was an industry where they would hire guys to kidnap devotees, and they'd take them off to some hut somewhere in the mountains, and then they'd force them to eat meat, and they'd break their faith, and horrible. It was horrible. Eventually that was stopped because, number one, there was a judgment in New York in one famous case, where the judge, I think because New York City is so eclectic, there were a good number of Hindus there, a good number of people could explain to that, no, this is a bona fide religion. This is a serious religion. There are millions of people in India who practice this religion, So the judge actually ruled, Bhakti Yoga, I don't use that word, but Krishna consciousness, whatever, is a bona fide religion, and the result was that anyone who performed it, they're going to be prosecuted for kidnapping. So immediately it stopped, because the guys were just in it for the money, But it's still difficult for people to understand, because this idea of a personal God, fully as personal as we are, and this word is Shyama Sundar, the last word in the whole purport, means the beautiful blackish form of the Lord. Blackish means tinged like a cloud, a cloud with the sun shining through it. This is described. It's not just... And so everything about Krishna, the very name Krishna, means all attractive. They analyze this word. Sanskrit is such a scientific language. The syllable Krish is part of the word karshiti, which means to draw you in. It means attractive. And the na That syllable means the bliss that you can experience from serving God, serving Krishna. So, and in the Sanskrit, especially these spiritual words, they carry the meaning even in the sound itself, meaning that the word itself can bring about. I'll give you an example. There's something called ananda, which is actually probably an English word by now, because there is anandamide. Did you ever hear of anandamide? Yes, I think it's in chocolate. I think it's what's in chocolate that kind of makes you a little high or something. There's something like that. Yes. And they got anandamide. So that word ananda has this sound nd in it. Now in Sanskrit, that very combination is known to produce bliss, even if you don't know what it means. And I'll give you an example of a word that has a sample of a verse that has that sound, and you can hear it. Nanda nanda napadada bindayo syannamana makadanda bindava sindava padamasauki sambadam nandi yantabidiyam mamanisham. This is a prayer. I think Rupa Goswami wrote this prayer. Nanda nanda nanda. That's a name for Krishna. Means the son of Nanda Maharaj, right? Nanda nandana. Padada vindayo. Lotus feet, right? Padada vindayo. Aravinda. Nanda nandana padada vindayo. Syandamana. Syanda means to ooze or trickle from. Syandamana makadanda. Makadanda is flower nectar, the sweet flower nectar that the bees, take back to the hive and concentrate into honey. So what the prayer is that, oh my dear Lord Nanda Nandana, the drops of flower nectar trickling from the lotuses of your feet are actually not drops. Bindu. Nanda Nandana Padada Vindayo, Syandamana Makadanda Bindava. Bindu means a drop. But then what's the word for ocean? Sindhu. Sindhava. They're not actually drops, they're oceans. Sindhava. Padamasaukya Sampadam, full of the highest bliss, the highest happiness. Padamasaukya. And then the prayer. Nandayantu vidiyam mamanisham. Please delight me with those drops by allowing me to serve your lotus feet forever. Nandayantu vidiyam mamanisham. That my heart always feel bliss in serving your lotus feet. Mamanisham means day and night forever. Anisham, without blinking. So he crafted this verse, and it just emphasizes that one sound. And just by chanting the verse, you're feeling some ananda. You see? What about the meaning of the verse? You see? So this is the bhakti as refined, the refined bhakti that Lord Chaitanya taught Rupa Goswami, the principles. He expanded it, of course, with his book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of the nectar of devotion. And then he wrote so many other things, like the Stava Mala, a garland of poems for Krishna. That's what Mala is, right? And Stava is a garland of verses for Krishna. And this is one of them, Nanda Nanda Napadada Bindayo. And it's just full of those expressions. And we see from Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, and I know that when he and his associates, that they were always experiencing. Not, periodically, of course, they had to sleep, and then get together. But basically, they spent hours and hours chanting Hare Krishna and hearing from Bhagavatam and accounts and so many things like that. And they're completely happy with that, blissful. And he is, the process has come down and was given to us by Srila Prabhupada. It constantly comes back to that. Back to that. This is the ideal, to be revive, and this is another very important point of the philosophy, that each of us as a soul has that eternal relationship with Krishna that is now lost to us. We can't access it because we're covered by the modes of nature and the physical body and all of these other things. It's confusion, Maya. So Bhakti Yoga systematically removes that Maya, cleanses away the darkness and the illusion, so that what's already there can shine forth. This is what's so wonderful to understand. That it's not something imposed, but it's something simply uncovered. And this whole chapter, it has many dimensions. There's the kind of the climax where Arjuna says, "Who are you?" You know, because he's kind of frightened. This is not the Krishna that he knows, that he's related to. And so this incredible, huge form that's devouring, or, you know, crushing the heads of all the armies, you know, and everything. It's frightening. So Arjuna has lost his composure. So, "Who are you? Please tell me who you are." And so then that famous verse, "Karosmi loka chayakrit pavidho." I forget the rest of the Sanskrit. But I am time. Time I am. I've come to destroy everyone, everything, and all these soldiers, except you, Pandavas, and a few others, will perish. So you may leave the battlefield hoping that you'll save your grandfather, Bhishma, and your teacher, and so many others, but they're going to die anyway. That's my plan. Part of Krishna's mission, you remember, in the 4th chapter, he has the famous verse. Everyone who grows up in India must know this verse. You know this one, Sureshwar. You can chant with me. Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata. Yeah, abhyutana dharmasya tadamanasajana. Oh, sorry, I was rushed over here. Okay, now I feel complete. So, whenever and wherever there are discrepancies in dharma in this world, and adharma becomes ascendant, I advent myself. And then the next verse, how does he do that? Padatsanaya sadhunam, vinashaya shadushkritam, dharma sangsthapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. The word artaya means for the purpose of doing these things I just mentioned. So the first one is to protect my devotees. See, Krishna, he has an unbroken affection for all the living entities. Unfortunately, most of them have forgotten him, and they're in lower species, so they can't even have their Krishna consciousness revived. They have to come up to the human form, and then get good association and the good fortune to get the clue of devotional service, and then take it up. And as soon as you take it up, you're on the path. You may not succeed in one lifetime, but you know that's a good fortune. So Krishna comes in order to protect his devotees from the demons. Sadhanam vinash dushkrita, the dushkrita, those who are performing evil activities, you know. So he comes for that reason, but the vinashaya, to destroy it or arrange to be destroyed, those who are demons who are just enemies of devotees like that. And so that's what was going on 5,000 years ago. You read the Krishna book and you see, oh, there's Jarasan, there's Kamsa, there's all of these, evildoers. And so, Krishna could do it himself, but he wants to encourage his devotees to surrender to him and act. And that's exactly what's going on here. He wants Arjuna to, perform his role, his central role on the army of the Yadus, in order to, or the Pandavas and the Yadus, to conquer, and eliminate all of these evildoers. Now, Bhishma Dev, he's a Mahajan. So how did he get on the other side? Well, when Yudhishthira was cheated out of the kingdom, remember what happened? He was actually the king. He performed the Rajasuya Yajna as the king. But Duryodhana and company were always thinking, well, how can we, get the kingdom? So they came up with this gambling match idea. And it was from the beginning, they were cheating. They were cheating. But Yudhishthira was so dharmic, being the son of Dharmaraj, that even though they got cheated, he kept playing until finally he had nothing left. They even won his wife, that famous scene, and they tried to disrobe her, but Krishna came and protected her. So the ultimate result of all that whole kingdom was lost with all of the land and all of the wealth. And they had to be in exile for, was it 14 years or 12 years? 12 years. Rama was 14 years, I think. Yeah. And if they were recognized, they had another 12 years. So anyway, so there's a whole pastime that, Arjuna took the role of a dancing teacher, Brihanila. Pretty funny. And I don't know what Bhima did, probably a cook somewhere, So they were in disguise, and, they lived through that. And then there was they came back, and the war actually was coming about. It was arranged that it's going to happen. They had their allies and so forth. So the point was that Krishna had his motive for doing this, and Arjuna was now standing in his way by quitting. So Arjuna, understood finally, after the Bhagavad Gita, that his role, first of all, no one is going to die, right? Najayate mete bhakadacha. That's very important. Second chapter. That Bhima, Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya and all his beloved cousins and friends and everyone on both sides, no, they're not going to die. And because Krishna's on the battlefield, in their presence, they'll be exalted, either go back to Godhead or go to a higher level. Everyone's going to go up, And so that's a very important realization, and Arjuna understands that. And the most important thing is that this is what Krishna wants, and this is the whole idea of the Bhagavad Gita, that the highest position is to act in such a way that Krishna is satisfied. Now, how can we know that Krishna is satisfied? Well, here he directly knew, but we can know through the medium of the spiritual master and the teachers. That's how Krishna's arranging things. So that's how Prabhupada spread the movement. He finally, by the chanting, that's the first thing, the chanting and the prasadam. That was, and of course he's giving the philosophy, but that would keep people coming back, and getting purified. So then, and because of Prabhupada's character and because of his love for Krishna, and when people became sensitized, then their attraction was to Prabhupada. They wanted to please him. So Satsarup, Bhakta Steve, at the early, he gave his salary, Brahmananda gave his salary, so that the whole storefront could go on. The whole thing was working on Prabhupada in the center. He sacrificed so much, so we want to serve him. So it works like that. And at the end of this chapter, we're almost coming up to the 55th verse. We won't get there tonight, probably a couple of nights. It boils down, and Krishna, Prabhupada says, as I think I read earlier, that this is the essential verse. This verse gives the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Text 55. Hare Krishna. Thanks for attending, and please return again. Okay. All right. So here he shows his two-handed form, which really you can just imagine Arjuna, this a sigh of relief. He's seen this magnificent form. He's frightened by the power and the destructive energy of it. And please show me that four-handed form. He shows him the four, then he shows him the two-handed form. So that's what he's saying. And how to see the form, and Prabhupada makes it very clear. Only through devotion can one see this. Especially the conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult, and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form as Shyamasundar. And we should stop for a moment and see how fortunate we are that in this process of devotional service, as given by Prabhupada and the line that he's in, there is this great tradition of deity worship. And of course it has to be supported by the chanting. So your consciousness is getting purified, and then you can come to feel the actual presence of the Lord through the deity. And how attractive this form is, and you want to do some service, you bring some, you give a donation or like that, and so the deity worship is a very important part of it. But the most important part is the hearing and chanting, which you can take anywhere. You can take the chanting with you. You can learn these verses, like some of the verses. These are not my verses. These are from the Shastra. And Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita has so many memorable verses, of course, that Prabhupada would quote all the time. And in this way, you change the way in which you see yourself, in which you see the world, and especially your mission in life. You have a meaningful mission. That you want to get closer to Krishna, try to experience some of the things you read about and you feel the inkling of, and you want to give it to others. Because it's really the only antidote to all the suffering that's going on. This world is like, who knows what's going to happen, But unless people turn, to this spiritual science, by which there's a beautiful verse of the Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj speaks. Oh God, I don't know if I can recite this verse. But the meaning of the verse is this: May everyone practice devotional service, because by doing so, they will come to feel, to act for each other's welfare. And in this way, the world will become calm and people will become happy. You know, this is his prayer to Lord Nrsingadev. He's asking Nrsingadev. So that's actually the mood of this. Prahlad reflects the mood of the preaching movement. And I'll return to this. This is we went some months ago through Prahlad's prayers. You remember that? We took a few months to go through those of classes. And near the end, he encapsulates the mood of the preachers in Lord Chaitanya's movement. And he starts like this: Naibod Vijay Padadoratya Vaitaranyas Fadviya Gayana Mahamrata Magna Chitta Shochetito Vimakachetasa Indriyata Maya Sukhaya Banamudvahato Vimudhan. So what he says there is that, my dear Lord Nrsingadev had just killed Hiranyakashipu. There's blood everywhere, you know, but Prahlad isn't phased. He just comes up. Actually, the demigods all came down and they were trying to pacify Hiranyakashipu with prayers. He was still raging, you know. So this Lord Shiva, Brahma, from quite a distance, you know, they were offering these wonderful prayers, 2 or 3 prayers, but he wasn't pacified. They said, maybe Lakshmi, he's, you know, see what you can do. 1 or 2 prayers, no change. So Prahlad, who wasn't at all afraid of him, you know, said, Prahlad, he likes you, see what you can do. So he walked right up. You know, he came right up to the Nrsingadev, offered his obeisances, stood up, and the Nrsingadev was immediately, before he even said a word, he was pacified, and he put his hand on Prahlad's head. And just like Dhruva, he felt, you know, because Prahlad, after all, was only 5 years old, but he felt able to offer these extensive, advanced Sanskrit prayers, you know. So he goes through the whole one. Near the end, he has these 2 prayers, the one I chanted. So what he says there to Lord Nrsingadev, Naivod Vijay, I am not at all disturbed. I have no disturbance at all. Because Padadoratya Vaitaranyas, I've already crossed over the difficult to cross river Vaitarani. Vaitarani river is the river between the material and spiritual world. So he's saying, I'm already there with you. You're always on that spiritual side. So since I'm always thinking of you, I'm with you, and therefore I'm on that. And Tvadviya Gayana Mahamrata Magna Chitta, very important line. At any time, I can merge my consciousness into an ocean of nectar just by chanting your glories. So what is the problem? I have no problem. But then he said something very interesting. Shoche, I am lamenting. Why are you lamenting? You know, I'm lamenting for these fools and rascals who are trying to enjoy Maya Sukhaya, illusory, flickering sense happiness. Shochetado vimukha chetasa. Every word counts, it's so important. Vimukha means turning your face away. And turning away, you're turning your consciousness away. From whom? From God, from Krishna. So we turn away from God, we forget about Him, and we're absorbed in this material world trying to enjoy Maya Sukhaya, illusory, flickering happiness. And the word bottom is there, bearing the great burden, you know, getting the money and the association, you got to have the body together to do it, whatever, you know. So it's a big burden to keep trying to enjoy like that. Maya Sukhaya bottom, udvahato vimudhan, bearing that burden, these, not Buddhas, but Vimuddhas, really foolish rascals. So, I'm not going to leave them alone. I'm not going to just go off to the forest or go back to Godhead and forget about them. That's the next verse. Prayena deva munayo svava mukti kama maunam chadandi vijanena parartha nishta naitan vihaya kripanan vimamuksha eko nanyan tvadasti sharanam brahmato onupashe. He says, for the most part, this word prayena, where did we see this word? Oh, in one of the lectures we had this weekend, I don't know if you saw them, there was a whole, Maharaj was here, these Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Swami and everything. So the famous verse at the beginning of Bhagavatam, Prayena alpaya shaksabhya kalavasminyagena, that what is this word, this Kali Yuga characterized by? For the most part, they have small, alpa ayusha means short living. Previous ages, you know, Arjuna was in an age when they lived 1,000 years. Before that, in Treta, 10,000, and such 100,000 years. What if we live to be 100? Oh, you get your name in the newspaper or something, you know. So, but the prayena, that covers all of the qualities mentioned, not just the short living. Prayena sabda kalavasmin yugejana manda. For the most part, very lazy in the matter of spiritual life. Who can deny it, you know? Sumanda matayo, misguided. If someone is interested, chances are they'll get into some bogus yogi or, you know, some cult or something. So sumanda matayo, manda bhagya, and for this reason, very unfortunate. And then upadrata, and almost always disturbed, very disturbed in mind, you know. So this is the modern age. So Prahlada used the same word here in this last verse. Prayena, for the most part, O Lord, Brahmana Deva Muniyo, the Munis, the learned saints and sages, you know. Svamamukti kama. Lust, kama, they desire strongly only their own liberation. They don't care about anyone else. Let me just go merge into Brahman and I'll be free of birth and death and hell with everyone else. And because they're like that, Maunam, the Munis, they're in silence. They don't say anything. Chadandi Vijaneya, they wander where there's no people, where there's nobody. Up in the mountains of the Himalayas, forest somewhere, you know, away from the big city. Vijaneya, and then the key phrase, every word is so important. Na parartha nishta, not at all determined to help anyone else. Para-artha means to help others to achieve their goal, which is Krishna. The heck with that, you know. So that's the but Prahlada, he says, I'm not like that. Naitan vihaya kripanan, I can't give up these creepiness, these fools and rascals who don't know anything about you. Vimamuksha eko, simply wanting my liberation alone, you see. Because nanyam tvarasti sharanam, I don't see any other shelter for them but you, my Lord. And I have to give them you. This is the role of the acharya or the pure devotee. As Prabhupada would mortally say, the transparent via medium, meaning that they're clear channels for Krishna, his teachings, and everything else. So that was Prahlad. He was personified that. So this is a kind of a creed, you know, of the preacher. Is that I'm experiencing all this bliss, I can glorify you anytime, and just by that glorification I can be happy, I hardly need anything to eat, but to speak of all this other stuff. But I can't be satisfied as long as this whole world is full of suffering souls. And so you try to give Krishna. So anyway, that's what's happening here. And, okay, let's go on to text 53. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So, in almost all the shastras I've looked at, it describes Krishna's two-armed form as being the color of a monsoon rain cloud, kind of like what you described. Where does the lighter blue color come from in a lot of the pictures, paintings?
Oh, maybe we should make them darker. I've seen so many times a new rain cloud in the sky. And there's one, what is that verse? Kiranola Sadangam. Udasi Kritamudadi to the Bangam, Navajala Kiranola Sadangam. This is describing this color. Navajaladhara, a new rain cloud in the sky. Kirana is the sun rays shining through it. So it's not just some dull color, but it's an effulgent color, bluish, a tinge of gray, like that, you know. So that's one description that, you know, it's like dynamic. And sometimes it says, you know, the complexion, the smooth complexion, steals away the beauty of the sapphires, which is a little darker emerald, you know. So I think we just have to, you know, pray and we'll get to see, and then we'll make our own analogy. All right, let's go on. Now he talks about text 53, right? Yeah. Naham vedayana tapasa nadanena nachejaya shakya evam vido drashtum drishtavan asimam yata. So now he's explaining how all the ways you can try to see him that won't work. The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. And he'll explain the reason how you can see him in the next verse. Purport. Krishna first appeared before his parents Devaki and Vasudeva in a four-handed form. And then he transformed himself into the two-handed form. This mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists or who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of grammatical knowledge or mere academic qualifications, Krishna is not possible to understand. Nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna can be understood only through the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself in the next verse. Bhaktya tunanya shakya ahamevam vidorjuna gyatam drashtam chatattvena praveshtam chaparantapa. All right, this is actually a very long purport, and we only have a few minutes left. So I think we'll just stop there, and we'll do this verse tomorrow, because it's such an important verse. These last two verses actually are key to understanding this whole chapter. So rather than go into it, I'll just stop there, and a few poems. Okay. So these are just verses that I like to chant. Don't put it there. Put it behind you up on the shelf, if you will, because that's where you sit. People sit. Yeah, you can hold. So actually, those who were in the morning class yesterday, Maharaj gave a nice class on Jiva Goswami. And part of what his class was talking about was how incredible a Sanskrit scholar he was. He wrote so many verses, 500,000 verses. And he would compose them in his mind and then write them with a stylus that couldn't even be changed. You know, if you write on the palm leaf, that's one thing. You know, maybe you can do an editing and then recopy. But he was so skilled that he composed everything perfectly, and then he just wrote it down, and that's the way it is. So one of his books is called the Gopal Champu, which is a very wonderful book. It's an expansion of Krishna's pastimes. It's like, you know, there's the pastime in the Bhagavatam we know is in chapter 9 of the 10th canto, which is Krishna being chased by Mother Yashoda. He's naughty, he stops, you know, it's a delightful pastime. That's what Kartik month is all about. So I remember reading that pastime in the Gopal Champus, and what happens when, because the final thing ends, he pulls down those two trees, right? He's bound up to the grinding mortar, but he's not stopped by any old grinding mortar. He can easily pull it. So Narada Muni, 36,000 years ago, he had cursed these two sons of Kuvera, Nalakuvara and Mani Griva, to become Arjuna trees, you know, and live for a long time. But he blessed them also by they're growing now in the backyard of Krishna. So there they were, and Krishna knew about all this, so he starts pulling this big, heavy grinding mortar. It's for all these Krishna, even though he's little. And he's crawling there, and he goes between the two, and he yanks them down, and the trees crash down, and the tree bodies are gone, but the two devas come out, and they're all purified, you know, and they offer some prayers, and they go back to the heavenly planets. And so there's a huge sound, and all Nanda Maharaj, everyone kept running, what's going on? And there's the boys. Somehow the trees didn't injure Krishna or any of the boys, some miracle, thank God, you know. And so then Nanda Maharaj said, who did this to you? Who tied you to this stupid mortar anyway, you know? So Krishna, a mother did it, you know. So meanwhile, Mother Yashoda is back home, and she's just, you know, distraught. What did she do? You know, it's because she has understanding what happened. So she won't come out. And Nanda Maharaj is angry at her. What does she do that for? You know. So they go back, and Krishna's there, and Krishna is hanging on to his father, and he doesn't want to go see his mother because he's picked up on his father that she's angry. So Nanda Maharaj says, what am I going to do? You know, I can't let him be angry toward Mother Yashoda. So he figures out what to do. He says, I'm going to go beat her with this thing, you know. And Krishna says, no. So he runs to his mother, you see. And so there's a reconciliation there, like that. I mean, there's a whole different, expand on that's not in the Bhagavatam, So this is what the Gopal Champa is. It's kind of all of these enhancements on the Leela. So anyway, what I was thinking of doing, suggested about it, but I didn't do it, because he mentioned the exquisite Sanskrit, He was known to be, the super Sanskrit writer. So in this Gopal Champu, there's a series of songs. And my old good friend, Kushakrata, bless his soul, he did a translation of this Gopal Champu. And he also translated the songs, and he put them in a separate file and gave word by words meaning, because he's giving the Sanskrit. Most of it is just an English translation, which is great. So anyway, I memorized one of these songs, two of them actually. And I was going to chant one verse, and here's a verse. Okay, there's several verses. The reason why I memorized this song is this particular verse in the song, because I was visiting Alachua regularly, and they installed these exquisite Krishna Balaram deities. They're incredible. I'll show you pictures one of these nights. And so here's the song is about Venugit, how Krishna and Balaram are going out into the forest, with all their friends, and Krishna's blowing the flute, and the gopis and remembering them, and they're chanting all these verses. But so this is the verse. They're wandering in the forest, and the bees play a very important role. Practically every verse, the bees are there, because the bees are attracted to Krishna and Balaram because of the fragrance, natural fragrance of the body, and the mala. So this is about they're going. So mala padimala vali sadesham adijang kitinut kola halabah bahalakatu halavesham. They all rhyme like that, and has this beat to it. And there's a raga which I have no idea what it is, but each of them have these ragas, that's meant to be sung. But that's the beater. So I was just into that verse, mala. So what the meaning is, so they're wearing the malas, the garland. Both of them have these exquisite long garlands, like we had this morning. If I stood up, it reached down to your knees, This is Nimai, these garlands for Prabhupada, and then I do on Sunday night, and then I do the Monday morning class, so I give it away. So, mala padimala. Padimala is the fragrance. So the fragrance of the garlands, along with now, mala padimala voli. What is the voli? So I had to look that up. That's an instrument that their mothers use for putting on these fragrant oils all over their body, just like we have the Q-tip, right? So they have that adding to the fragrance. So there's this aura of incredible fragrance. Malam padimala voli vapur is body, ali. It happens that the word ali means bee. So you have got voli vapur ali. Volita sedation. Volita can be a bracelet or something, but it means around. So wherever they are, all these bees are all around them, wherever they go, wherever desha they go. You see? Mala padimala voli volita sedation. And what are those bees doing? They're singing. They're not just buzzing, they're singing stotras and the bees, Ali Jankuti Nutakola Halabahalakatu Helevation. So Ali Jankuti means very loudly they're singing nuti. Nuti means prayers and stotras. Ali Jankuti Nutakola Halabah means making a big sound, very loud. Kola Halabahalakatu Helevation with great enthusiasm. You see that the bees are really into it. And don't forget, everything in the spiritual world is completely conscious. So these bees are fully aware of what's going on. Mala padimala volleyball sadesham. Alijam kitanut kola halabahalakatu elevation. You can just, get into that. So, next time we come, maybe tomorrow night, we'll see if we can learn all this verse like that. Maybe we'll just try chanting the Gita verses nicely first, gradually. All right, we're out of time. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah.